Hello, boys and bees and girls. No. Hey there. No. Hi, boys, girls, and bees. I don't know if today's video is going to be short or long, but I figured I may as well put something out there. I thought maybe today I would talk about some of the symptoms that children can kind of start showing signs of being groomed and abused. So I can't remember if I actually mentioned it in my previous videos, but my first assaulter was my paternal grandfather, and it was much easier for him to groom since, you know, he was already my dad's father. That basically automatically ingratiates. So it's very easy for heads of the household, per se. It's very easy for them to get access to kids. People are just more trusting of like grandparents and uncles and all that, because I mean, they know you, or they think they do. A lot of the times when trying to deal with the trauma of being violated and all that, you can, how do I say this? It's hard to kind of put into words. It's very, like, it'll automatically start distressing you. Kids can kind of be spacey, not really motivated, or maybe they're emotional, but they don't know why. A lot of the times, I would either show signs of just being spacey, like I wouldn't clean my room. My parents actually ended up taking out all of my toys one time just because I would not clean. I just basically ended up playing with the sheet. Yeah, never happened. Never actually got that room clean. I'm sure it did. Kind of another thing that I can think of that kind of just lets you know that something is off. Like if a kid, I don't know where I was going with that. I got my fog brain. Eventually I'll get better at this. I promise I'll try. You know, the kids don't know they're actually being abused. They just figure, oh, that's a fun game that I get to play, or I really don't know what to say in a lot of these videos. I'm just kind of winging it. I probably should script or something, but even if it was scripted, I'd have difficulty concentrating on it anyway. Another symptom of being abused could be like your child presenting as kind of a ADHD. It's not always ADHD, it's trauma that is scattering that child's mind, basically. A lot of the times, kids can completely dissociate if the trauma is bad enough, so they won't know what happened to them or what they were doing at that time or that day, maybe even that week or month. But they'll be a little bit hyperactive, unable to concentrate, and emotional regulation can be skewed. Not always to make them more emotional. Like, I always thought I was a bad kid, but that was mostly because I was being abused, and that's how kids and abused children think of themselves, as they're a bad child, that they couldn't do anything right. But yeah, you can get like super hyperactive, or sometimes you won't do anything at all. You'll just kind of stare into space. When I dissociate, I end up going like inside myself, and I have a really good imagination. I mean, that's one of the good perks of childhood abuse. I could like go into my own little world, basically. I would, on the outside, I would be like staring at something just willy-nilly, or I would be playing with just anything, not really responding necessarily. Let's see, what else? I want to be able to help identify these things in kids. It's important that no more children are subjected to this. It's horrific, and it doesn't seem like very many people care about it, especially a lot of the Republican people, and straight up, some of those Democrats are... I'm not really for either of them, but I tell you what, those Republicans they get way worse. What else? I'm trying to think, but sometimes your brain just stops functioning sometimes. Like diarrhea all over the place. Let's think about, those were some of my symptoms when I was an itty bitty kid. I was assaulted many times throughout my life. The last time I was raped was in 2018 by a friend, of course. Which, I mean, that kind of brings me to one thing, is most rape is done by an acquaintance or family member, colleague, someone within that person's or that child's life. Because, how are you going to hurt the kid if you can't get your hands on the kid? And, that kind of also leads into computer crimes as well. Like, there's a bunch of fucked up creepers out there. I'm not sure if you've ever seen, like, To Catch a Predator or anything, but there are some, like, pedo catchers out there. Some of them are a little bunkers, but a couple of them are really good. They actually like have the chat logs, and they make sure police presence is on site, and that they actually, make sure that that person is, well, they try to make sure. The most mind-boggling thing is a lot of these guys get away. So, I feel like computer crimes against children they can be especially insidious, because you can end up like luring a kid out of their house or home, and you don't know what you're putting that kid through. Like, even if you didn't show up to, do the deed, you're still making that kid get out. Like, you're still putting them in harm's way. So even if they're not assaulted by a computer predator, I mean, who's to say they're not, mugged or assaulted by someone else while they're out trying to wait on that person. And it's hard to protect against that too, because there's so many like fucking predators online. I know there's like come on. Wake up. I know a lot of my videos are literally just me being quiet, but I think it's probably a little important to show some of the symptoms that can happen, especially when you have chronic abuse throughout your life. I think there was a Republican guy from Alaska recently who he was trying to quantify savings for the government by basically saying it's better for an abused child to be killed because it'll save the government money in the long run. And I can personally say no, that's not okay. It just, people like that, it's disturbing. There's too much, it's so much fun. A lot of symptoms that you get as an adult, being a child of assault and abuse and everything. Sometimes you can get physically sick. I also deal with a abdominal pain that no one's been able to figure out what it is. And it does tend to get worse when I'm stressed out. So does like any of the nausea and I also have ulcerative colitis and irritable bowel syndrome. It's incredible how, like, chronic stress, like, how much a person can survive up to a point, and then they actually get into safety, and that's when all the, like, physical and mental, like, symptoms just really, really start. Like, as soon as your body knows that you're out of harm's way, it's gonna fuck you up. You can absolutely range from different types of sexual behavior. I've been hypersexual. I've been, like, asexual. That's kind of where I'm at right now. But, you know, if it were just me and I hadn't actually been through any trauma, like, I love everyone. I'm technically pansexual. That means all genders. I'm attracted to all genders. But, you know, I've become so fearful of other people that I just don't even want a relationship anymore. I don't want to have sex with anyone. I don't want to trust someone with my body again. Because so many times that trust has just been broken. I'll give you a little bit of a long story short. I've been abused through every life stage, starting from a little, like, 2 or 3 year old. Like, my first memory is of abuse, the sexual kind, and that's really gross. Excuse me. Following my grandfather passing back in 93, I was assaulted again by a classmate and friend at a birthday sleepover. It was my birthday, and my mom, like, did cute little makeovers and shit. And, you know, that's another telltale sign. Like, if another child that is super young, like, I was probably around 5-ish, 6, somewhere around there. If another child is trying to become sexual with your child, that's a sure, like, not always a sure sign, but a pretty sure sign that they've been abused themselves. When she didn't, like, pin me down or anything. It was like, I don't know why I'm trying to belittle this. Basically, I digitally assaulted by my classmate, and I do not remember anything else about her after that. I ran to my parents' bedroom. They let me sleep kind of on this little love seat that was, you know, it's one of those round, it doesn't matter, it was a fucking chair. So I curled up and slept in that chair, and I remember absolutely nothing after that. I don't remember seeing that friend again, even at school, so I don't know what happened, or, you know, if my parents ever said anything to her parents. But it's important to, like, keep in contact and communicate with your child's friends' parents. Any parent who's going to be around your kid, basically. And I kind of want to stress this bit. Like, while the parent is the first line of defense for a child, it is not the parent's fault that a perpetrator decided to rape your child. I feel like there's so many people who, either blame parents or suspect them. I mean, which rightfully so. There's a lot of parents who do abuse their children. But in order to actually get to the child, a groomer has to groom the parent first, because that's the only way you're actually going to get access to that kid. Sorry. Yeah, most important thing is that it's not your fault. Yes, you may have fucked up on, protecting your kid, but it is not on you that some fucking bastard decided to hurt your child. But that being said, you can't blame your kid either. Unfortunately, that's a huge thing. I don't know why, especially with, little kids. Sometimes they get blamed, or they are told, well, don't go around that person anymore. And it's just brushed off. I was molested by a cousin, and that's how I learned to stay away from that person. I ran to my parents again. I don't know if they actually did anything again. Let's see. Who else was next? There's a line. There's a lot of it. There's a lot. Individually, I've been assaulted by like 11 people now. I've actually got a timeline that I'm working on, just so like I don't have to necessarily remember everything. I can write it down and then, try to let it go. There's not really any letting go. A lot of people never recover from that kind of thing, much less endure it multiple times and still survive. I'm getting better, but I'm doing my best to like try and forgive myself for a lot of it. So many kids also, like, even when you're young, you think it's your fault. You think you're a bad kid. And I think it's important to stress to your child that no, that was not your fault. You are not a bad kid. You are exceptional, and I love you. I was assaulted in like right before 6th grade, right around middle school time. And then I was scapegoated in order to hide it. So that became a source of bullying. A lot of middle school sucks. Like, everyone says high school's the hardest, but I feel like middle school is. Kids can be monsters. I mean, they're awesome, wonderful kids. I love them, but I won't be having one. But yeah, she would make me and a couple of friends do stuff. And next up, I had Another random side effect sometimes, like if you're used to like keeping it all in for so long, like you can actually get body twitches. That is the weirdest thing. Like it's not necessarily one body part either. It's like every now and then a leg spasm, or like it can be, you know, in your arms. Biggest affected, at least for me, is, well, obviously my brain and my stomach. I've had stomach problems since I was probably 17 or 18, which is, let's see, I began remembering my first case of assault and abuse when I was around 14 or 15. My parents didn't believe me, and that is soul crushing. Like I remember telling my dad that, you know, Papa raped me. And the first things that came out of his mouth were, "What about your virginity?" I'm probably going to be getting into this at some point too, but religious trauma. So many little girls are brought up to protect their virginity above all else. And if you lose it or you give it away happily and willingly, if it's stolen from you, it doesn't matter. You're worthless. If you're not a virgin for your wedding night, that's shameful. And that was probably what hurt me most, because it shouldn't matter. Like, if your child comes to you and they've been hurt, you need to ask them, you know, not what about your virginity, but you need to let them know it's not their fault. And you need to ask them, what can you do for them in this moment? That would probably make a world of difference. Buckle in, kids. I'm only halfway through. Kids can begin to act out sexually. I ended up basically having sex for the first time, well, willingly, with my high school boyfriend, because I wanted to get out of giving him a blowjob. It's just, it's hard to look back and think of yourself as a victim. And it's hard to think about, you know, I let that happen. I still consider it consensual, but it's certainly dubious. I mean, because I had just turned 16. I'm pretty, he was 18-ish, 19, which in high school can be a huge difference. But what happened with him later on was I I stayed with him for quite a while. I can't remember how many years actually, but we were engaged at one point, and he followed me out to school, and it was one of those Christian campus things, supposedly really good and safe, but it wasn't. I'm not sure how much you guys know about college campus rape culture, but it is even more severe at Christian schools. It's entirely predatory. I literally, like, had just gotten done comforting a friend who had been raped by, someone in our group. Her, like, I think they were boyfriend and girlfriend. They at least liked each other at the time. But, I wanted to go to the cops, and, she wasn't comfortable with that, so I didn't say anything. Didn't matter. The guys were still, they thought I went to the cops or something. So I became that girl, the one who snitches on everyone. Ruins a good time. But, it was after that my fiance ended up raping me. Claimed that he was asleep while it was happening. But the worst part is that I stayed with him for another, year and a half. And it took meeting a couple of old high school friends for me to get out of that relationship. Because I was so convinced by my religious teachings that if you have sex with someone, that's it. That's your, you gotta stick with that person. He's willing to marry you. Go ahead and fucking stay with him. Snag him down. Eventually I got out of that relationship. It had turned kind of toxic. Well, more toxic than you can get, by being raped and everything. God. I think I'm probably gonna save the rest of it for another one. I'm already feeling super drained. The reason I am keeping all the pauses and everything in is because I want you to see what this can do to someone. The long-term effects can be astronomical. It's unquantifiable. And I'm still pissed off about that one Republican guy. Like, who the fuck thinks that it is better to have a dead, abused child? Well, I think I'm just gonna end it here. If you made it through this whole thing, thank you. I really have absolutely no segue into a video ending here. Thank you for watching and everything. Yeah. Bye.